Howdy. I hope you guys are doing well. I decided to take the time to reread The Stand this year because there's going to be a miniseries released on CBS All Access, and I thought I need to go through and reread this in preparation for that. So, I had a blast doing this. This was so fun to go back and revisit these characters. You know, this is one of those books that when you read it, the characters really stick with you and the scenes really stick with you, and just like with a lot of Stephen King works, when you go back and read them, you notice things the second time you didn't necessarily notice the first time, or you like things the second time more than the first time, and that was definitely true here. The first time through, my favorite character was Stu Redman, and actually this time my favorite character was Tom Cullen. And some of the other characters I appreciated a lot more too. Glenn Bateman I appreciated a lot more this time. The Dark Man was super fun this time. That tunnel scene was still creepy as hell, and I think I was even more scared the second time than I was the first time. I had some different interpretations this time, but before I go into those, I need to get into something that is sort of the elephant in the room. We're having a pandemic right now. We're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. I know a lot of people are getting into this now because they're saying that Stephen King predicted the COVID-19 pandemic or something like that. Look, Stephen King wrote about tropes within the human race that we've always had. Greed, disregard for human life. These things have been around forever, and that is why some of the same tropes we see play out on the societal level also play out in this book. But I do think that this is a very serious issue that needs to be not oversimplified. So while I do see the similarities, I do think we need to not oversimplify, and we need to face each issue in the best way possible. Some of the things I had a problem with the first time, I didn't have nearly as much of a problem with the second time because I think I reinterpreted a lot of what I thought were problems before. Some of the things that were problems, such as the stereotypes in the book, those are of course still problems to me, but I've learned to more so appreciate books in spite of some of these issues, which I think I've always done. But especially with me reading a lot of classic literature lately, I've had to do this out of necessity, just because a lot of things were written at in a different time, and while a lot of these stereotypes were not and are not okay, it's important to realize that if you're going to be reading a lot of literature, you're going to run into stuff like this, and sometimes you have to learn to appreciate the story in its context and understand what the intent of the author was, while not necessarily agreeing with them. So that's just something that's happened with a lot of Stephen King works, and I just wanted to address it and put it in more context after reading it the second time. Now on to what I thought were major plot problems. The first time I read this through, I didn't understand why Stephen King, first off, introduced so many supernatural elements halfway through the story, and second off, had this ending that was so bad, just completely ruined it, threw all these things off in the ending, and I just don't think that this time, because the thing you have to keep in mind about this story is it does say it is a story of dark Christianity. It's very important to keep that in mind, because Randall Flagg, he represents the evil in human beings. He also represents disregard for other humans, or just sort of people not learning from their mistakes. It says his name is Legion. It says he's been around for a long time, so you could interpret it in the sort of religious way, or you could interpret it in that sort of more philosophical way. All throughout the story, there are hints that Randall Flagg will return, that he's never really dead. Randall Flagg is not his real name. He's been around forever. He doesn't actually die. He's been around since before humans were ever on this planet. The ending where he comes back kind of has a double meaning, because it's like this takes place on an island that's probably an uncontacted tribe, so you have no idea how much time has passed, and Stu Redman even said, well, he thought that the Earth might need some time to just kind of shake its branches and reset itself, and that's what it very much felt like it was doing by getting rid of Randall Flagg, because he was stopped, he was defeated. Whatever he was trying to do in Las Vegas, it failed, and that sacrifice, right or wrong, was the atonement for God, if that's what the interpretation of the story is that God was helping these four go across the desert and beat Randall Flagg. It's not really taking a side here. It's not really saying anything in that regard. It's just saying this is sort of a tale of that kind that's a metaphor. And if that's a metaphor, then at the very end when it says he doesn't really remember his name, he says it's like Richard Faraday or something, and he said it doesn't matter where you made your stand, it just matters that you have people who follow you, basically. Life is like a wheel that turns and no man can stand on it for long, but it always ends up where it started. And you could look at that and have that sort of pessimistic outlook and say people never learn from their mistakes, which is how I interpreted it the first time, but I also missed a lot of those references to Randall Flagg and him being sort of eternal. But you could also interpret it as Randall Flagg can't stand on the wheel for long. Human beings will always triumph. People have to make their stand repeatedly, but ultimately the circle will always close and things will always start again. And that's just kind of how things are. It's an endless battle between good and evil. And if you interpret it that way, it makes a lot more sense, and the ending is not nearly as frustrating. So when I read it, I tried to stop this time after Fran said, "I don't know," which is where I thought the cutoff should take place last time. But this time, when I kept going, I did like the ending a lot more, and I really like this book now. I like it a lot more than I did the first time, and that's great. And I've experienced this with some Stephen King books before. You keep reading something, you read it over again, and you realize you liked it more the second time than you did the first time. He could have given it that ending where he cut it off just saying, "Yep, this is what happened," and everything was great, and they learned their lesson, and it was like, no, this is an open question, and that's what I wanted the book to be, and I realized having that ending there really does hammer that point home. So I really did like this the second time. And I just wanted to share my thoughts after reading this again. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. And let me know if you want me to read something else, but I think the next thing I'm going to read is Carrie by Stephen King. I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, until next time, thank you for watching, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.